Welcome to Money is Freedom, a podcast exploring how finance and freedom connect in our lives. Created from thoughtful research and narrated by Notebook LM AI, this series brings you clear, meaningful insights into finance and beyond.
Welcome to episode 41, where we explore how AI agents are evolving from isolated tools into structured, interoperable systems, what some are calling the emerging agent stack. This shift is reshaping the way we build and interact with AI, and it's happening fast. We're drawing inspiration from a fantastic blog post by Jon Turow, The Agent Stack Emerges, which maps out the core layers, from memory and planning to orchestration, that are forming the backbone of next-gen AI systems. If you're building in the AI space or just trying to make sense of the chaos, this episode is for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something really moving fast. The infrastructure behind AI agents.
Yeah, it's just evolving incredibly quickly.
We got some great material that shows how the actual, foundations for these AI apps are being radically rethought. Not just built, but redesigned.
Exactly. It's a real shift. We're moving away from, what felt like a lot of one-off experiments just a short while ago.
Right.
And now we're seeing much more structure, clearer layers are forming. It's not just about speed increases either. It's making people fundamentally rethink software development itself.
That's really the core of it, isn't it? These foundational shifts. AI agents aren't just some sci-fi concept anymore. They're actually pushing changes in infrastructure now.
Right now.
So we're digging into this whole emerging AI agent infrastructure stack. What we hope you'll get is a clearer picture of how fast this is moving and, maybe surprisingly, the patterns that are actually starting to stick.
And the growth speed is, it's pretty staggering, honestly. Companies really leaning into AI agents are scaling in ways that just look different.
Totally different. I mean, look at Cursor. They hit, $100 million ARR?
Yeah, in just 21 months.
With a tiny team, like 20 people.
And then there's Bolt and Lovable.
Right, $10 million, basically overnight, couple months, with 15 people each.
It really makes you question the old rules about scaling a business, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Is that sustainable? Or is it just a new kind of economic model emerging here?
That's the million-dollar question, maybe billion-dollar. But what it definitely shows is they're breaking free from old constraints. It's not just, shaving off a few percentage points of inefficiency.
No, it feels bigger.
It's using AI for massive operational leverage, and the infrastructure has to scramble to keep up, to support this kind of hyper-growth.
It's funny thinking back, less than a year ago, June 2024, people were saying this space was pretty empty.
Oh, yeah. Very DIY.
Everyone building their own thing from scratch, like separate little labs.
Exactly. Lots of experiments, which is great, but also loads of duplicated effort because there weren't really established ways of doing things.
And now, boom, just a few months later, the picture's way clearer, and we have actual data showing this speed up.
Yeah, like the Neon report, the serverless Postgres folks.
Right. What did they find?
They're seeing AI agents creating databases on their platform more than 4 times faster than human developers.
4 times? That's huge.
It's not just a little bump. It accelerates their core metric across the board. What does that even mean for the future? Backends becoming super dynamic, maybe?
Yeah, maybe databases just spin up and down instantly based on AI needs. It definitely points that way. More fluid, more responsive infrastructure.
Driven by the AI itself. And it's not just the back-end stuff.
No, definitely not. Look at Browserbase's Stagehand library. That's for UI automation, letting agents actually use websites like we do.
Ah, yeah. Clicking buttons, filling forms.
Exactly. And it just crossed 500,000 monthly installs on NPM.
Wow, 500K installs a month.
That signals massive demand for letting AI interact with the visual web, right?
Absolutely. For a specialized library like that, it really underlines how intense the need is. It almost makes you think, if you're starting a company now, are you already late?
You could think that. But what's weird is we're still seeing brand new companies founded even this year getting real traction. So why is that, do you think?
Well, I guess it means the ground is still shifting so fast. New needs, new niches pop up constantly. The core tech is still being figured out, so there's room for fresh ideas.
So we're past the initial Wild West experimentation phase.
I think so. That's a key difference. A year ago, it was mostly exploration. Developers starting from zero, trying to invent the wheel.
Right, lots of trial and error. Figure out the basics.
But now we're seeing actual repeatable patterns emerge. And smart teams aren't starting from scratch anymore. They're using these patterns.
Okay, so what are these patterns? Can we categorize them?
Yeah, people are starting to identify a few common types. First up, there's what they're calling next-gen co-pilots.
Okay, like the coding assistants we know.
Kind of, but more advanced. They're context-aware. They proactively help with complex stuff. Think Bolt.new, AirOps, Colimit. How are they different from, say, GitHub Copilot?
Well, the idea seems to be they go beyond just reacting to your commands. They actually understand the context of your work.
Ah, so they anticipate what you need.
Yeah, potentially offering help or suggestions before you even ask. Much more integrated.
Interesting. Okay, what's next?
Then you've got teammate agents. Companies like Ravenna, Sailplane, Basepilot are in this space.
Teammate agents. So more autonomous.
Exactly. They can actually drive multi-step workflows on their own. Yeah. It's like giving a complex task to an AI colleague who just runs with it.
Okay, so how does that differ from the next-gen Copilot? Is it just more independence?
That seems to be the main thing. Copilots assist you within your workflow. Teammate agents can own a whole process, start to finish, with less direct input.
Got it. And there are more patterns.
Yep. We're also seeing agent organizations. This is where you have multiple specialized agents working together.
Like a team of AIs.
Kind of. Aru's probabilistic simulations were mentioned as an example. It's about coordination between different agents to tackle something really complex. What's the benefit there? Is it just divide and conquer?
Pretty much. Division of labor. Each agent is good at one thing, and they collaborate almost like different departments in a company to solve problems too big for any single agent.
Makes sense. And the last pattern.
Agents as a service. Basically, companies offering specific AI agent skills as a service for other developers.
So like an API for a specific agent capability.
Exactly. Instead of building, say, a web browsing agent yourself, you just use one someone else provides, like plugging in expertise.
Okay, that lets developers focus on their main application logic, right? Not reinventing every AI wheel.
Precisely. So all these patterns, co-pilots, teammates, organizations, services, they're obviously putting new demands on the underlying tech.
Which brings us back to the infrastructure stack. It seems to be shaking out into three main layers: tools, data, and orchestration. Why those three? Why are they becoming the key pillars?
Well, think about what you need to build these things. You need the tools to give the agents capabilities, letting them browse, authenticate, use other software. You need data for their memory and context. And you need orchestration to manage them, especially when you have multiple agents working together.
Right. Capabilities, memory management.
And the innovation within each layer is intense right now. People are racing to solve the specific problems AI agents create, which often aren't the same as traditional software problems.
Okay, let's break those down. Tools first. You said this has seen huge growth.
Yeah, it feels like it's exploded.
Yeah.
Giving agents the ability to do things in the world. A big piece is browser infrastructure and UI automation. Why is letting agents use websites so critical?
Well, just think about how much happens in a browser window, right? For work, for personal stuff. If agents can't interact with those visual interfaces, they're locked out of a huge part of the digital world. They can't just rely on APIs for everything.
Good point. APIs aren't always available or sufficient.
And so we see companies like BrowserBase, Lightpanda, Browserless building that core tech. And then things like Stagehand on top, offering easier ways to code common interactions.
So you have the low-level plumbing and the higher-level components.
Exactly. Another critical tool area. Authentication and security. This feels tricky.
Definitely. If an agent is acting for a user, how do permissions work? The old username password model doesn't quite fit. What are the big security headaches here?
Well, mainly ensuring the agent only does what the user actually allowed it to do. You need fine-grained control. Agent-specific permission models.
Right, you don't want your agent going rogue with your credentials.
Exactly. So companies like Clerk, Anon, Statics.ai are jumping in, building this whole auth for agents category.
Makes sense. Okay, what else in the tools layer? Tool discovery. How does an agent even find out what tools it can use?
Yeah, that's huge. Right now, it seems a bit ad hoc. But there's a lot of talk about Anthropic's Model Context Protocol, MCP. People are calling it potentially the TCP/IP for AI agents.
Whoa, TCP/IP for agents. That's a big claim. What would a standard like MCP actually do?
The hope is it provides a common language, a standard way for agents to discover tools, understand how to use them, and pass context along reliably. And the fact that big names Stripe, Neo4j, Cloudflare are already setting up MCP servers, that gives it some weight.
That adoption is key. It could really kickstart an ecosystem where agents and tools just work together better.
Exactly. But protocols can be low level, so we're also seeing abstraction layers built on top.
Like middleware.
Sort of. Companies like Composio, they offer MCP-compatible ways to access things like Gmail or Linear, but through standard SDKs like TypeScript or Python. What's the advantage for developers there?
Oh, that makes it way easier, right? You don't need to understand the nitty-gritty of MCP itself. You just use a familiar library or API call. Faster development.
Right. And Arcade.dev is doing something similar, but maybe broader. A unified API for auth and tool management, even compatible with OpenAI stuff.
So you get choices depending on how deep you want to go.
Yeah, this layered approach seems smart. It caters to different needs. It's definitely better than the current situation, which feels like finding tools is mostly just asking around. Word of mouth.
Yeah. These protocols and layers could make it much more systematic. Okay, let's shift gears to the data layer. Memory at scale.
This really shows how existing infrastructure has to change. Neon's experience, again, agents creating databases 4x faster. That creates totally new demands, doesn't it? What kind of pressures does that put on their systems?
Well, you suddenly need instant database provisioning. You need it to scale up massively, automatically. And you need strong isolation so one agent's database doesn't mess with another's. Think about that create.xyz example.
Yeah, the developer agent.
Spinning up 20,000 databases in 36 hours, just based on user prompts. That demands incredible agility and scale from the data platform.
Mind-boggling scale. And within this data layer, we're seeing specialization too, right? Like specific memory systems.
Exactly. Things like Mem0 or ZEP. They're built specifically for agents to remember stuff over time, to recall context. How are they different from just using, say, Redis or a regular database?
Well, traditional databases are usually about structured data, right? Transactions. These agent memory systems are often geared towards maybe more unstructured info and optimized for that kind of contextual recall agents need for longer conversations or tasks.
Got it. And then there's storage itself. We see traditional players like Neon adapting.
And vector databases like Pinecone becoming super important.
Right.
Why are vector databases such a good fit here?
Because agents deal with so much unstructured stuff, text, images, etc. Vector databases are great at finding similar things in that kind of data. Semantic search, finding relevant context, that's their superpower. It's crucial for making agents smart.
Right. And we can't forget EPL, extract, transform, load. New services are popping up just to handle pulling in and cleaning up unstructured data for these agent systems.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out still applies, even for AI.
Especially for AI. Okay, final layer, orchestration. Managing the complexity.
Yeah, once you start using multiple agents, maybe specialized ones, talking to each other, it gets complicated fast. You need something to manage the whole flow.
That's where tools like LangGraph, Crew AI, Letta fit in. Managed orchestration.
Exactly. They give you frameworks to design and run these multi-agent workflows, making sure they talk correctly, handle steps in order, recover from errors. What are the main headaches when you try to coordinate multiple agents?
Oh, lots. Making sure agent B waits for agent A to finish, handling it if one agent fails, sharing information between them reliably, keeping track of the overall goal. Orchestration tools try to hide some of that messiness.
Right. And for long-running processes, you need state persistence.
Which is where things like ingest, hatchet, temporal come in. They make sure the system remembers where it was, even if a process takes hours or days. Reliability for complex, long-running agent jobs.
So looking back, that analogy from a year ago, developers speeding across a half-finished bridge.
Yeah, I like that one. It felt accurate then.
And today, the bridge is definitely more built out. There's more structure. But the traffic on the bridge agent adoption is growing exponentially.
Good point. So the construction isn't over. It has to keep pace with the ever-increasing load.
Exactly. Which I think is the main point here. This rapid infrastructure evolution, it's not just incremental improvement. It feels like a fundamental shift in how software gets built. A whole new paradigm emerging.
And this maturing stack, the tools, data, orchestration, the protocols like summed MCP, it's all scrambling to keep up to enable this shift. But even with all this progress, I feel like we're still pretty early days, right?
Oh, absolutely. Very early innings. The potential for new ideas and innovation across all these layers. Tools, data, orchestration, it's still massive. Huge opportunities remain.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the main points from our deep dives. We saw the crazy growth of companies using agents.
The shift from just experimenting to using clear, repeatable patterns.
And how the infrastructure is solidifying around those three key layers: tools, data, and orchestration. And each one is buzzing with activity.
And all this evolving tech is paving the way for completely new kinds of applications and services we probably haven't even thought of yet.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. How will these big infrastructure shifts actually change the apps and services we use every day? Think beyond just code. What new things become possible in, say, healthcare or education or entertainment now that this foundation is getting stronger? It's a really exciting time to watch this space.
Absolutely fascinating.
Thanks for diving deep with us today.